Welcome to Life is for Living. I'm your host, Kylee Buckley, and I'm here with David J. Riddell. And we're going to be talking today, David, into a challenge to all my most basic assumptions. It's important to challenge your basic assumptions, is it not?
Yes, it is. So let's just work through how we as humans operate. Let's start at the top with the words and the actions. That's the behaviour, right? Now, behaviour is expression of emotion, it's expression of mood, it's expression of what we're telling ourselves. So beneath the behaviour is the mood of the moment. But beneath the mood of the moment is what created that mood, which is the self-talk. Now, it takes me 2 weeks to teach people to monitor their moods and their self-talk. But we don't stop there, because underneath the self-talk, the thoughts, the thinking that creates the moods are the beliefs about you, me, life, success, failure, money, attitudes, thousands of beliefs that fuel the self-talk. Now we're getting down into darkness here, because once we've drilled down into the beliefs, we're not at the bottom yet. We have to get to the cellar, we have to get to the basement, and the basement is the assumptions that the beliefs are born out of. And nobody really talks much about assumptions. They're discussed as a priori in a debate. They may be discussed in a court of law. There are a multitude of assumptions that actually govern our lives that we never see, never think about, never really expose. For example, many people have a problem with assertiveness. They can't answer back, they can't defend themselves, they can't push back, they can't speak up when something needs to be said, and they are worried about this shyness, this tendency to withdraw and shut down, and they can't do a thing about it, and it can destroy their career, their promotion, their marriage, their relationship with their parents or their children, for the lack of knowing what to say and when you need to say it. But do you know there's an assumption beneath all that that is rather like the wizard behind the curtain? It's not coming at us, not exposing itself, but it's actually pulling all the strings from behind the curtain of our subconscious. Because why? Because assumptions are the language of the subconscious. And let me just expose a few, because it takes me 2 weeks to train my students to be able to spot the false assumption. But until they can spot the false assumption, the changes they make are temporary. They don't hold, they don't stay, they backslide, they go back to the way they were very quickly, despite the New Year's resolution or the assurances to their spouse that they will never do it again. The truth is that we are creatures of habit. And one of the reasons for that is an assumption that says that when you're in trouble, you should keep safe by keeping silent. And if you believe in keeping safe by keeping silent, you will sulk, you won't speak up, you won't develop your assertiveness skills, you won't push back when you need to push back, you won't ask a question when a question needs to be asked, you won't progress in your class or in your academic career, because as soon as you get your head snapped off, your head bitten off, as soon as you're silenced or put down or bullied, you retreat, you withdraw, because at some age in your childhood, you decided that speaking up and pushing back was dangerous, and you decided not to do that. It's too dangerous, and you ended up as one of the silent majority. And so that one conclusion, that silence is safer than speaking up, that can wreck your marriage, that can wreck your career, that can wreck your life, that can wreck your relationship with your children. If you are so conflict allergic that you never ever stick up for yourself, Don't think you can be an adult in a world of adults. You will remain in arrested development. Why? Because it's a child's conclusion you're now running on. You won't push back when you need to push back. You'll have no answer for the crazy maker and the borderline personality disorder and the narcissist. And so you're in trouble and you're going to get resentful. And we know that when a spouse becomes resentful, alienation is always the result. Alienation from your parents, your spouse, your own children, your boss, and your best friend. Now, why is that? Because the intimacy is never better than the honesty. But if your inner child is telling you this is a dangerous situation, say nothing or say something irrelevant or make small talk or crack jokes, then how do you ever grow in the intimacy and the connectedness? When a husband doesn't speak up when he needs to, then his wife can't connect with him to the point where she really needs to. She starts to feel cut adrift. He begins to feel like she doesn't know him, and they begin to drift apart. So this is just one belief that may never be spoken, but it's directing everything. And another assumption could be that I am not enough. You learnt that in school when you failed your exam. You learnt that in class when you couldn't answer the question. You learnt that when you were repeatedly humiliated on the track or on the field or in the school or giving a talk that people laughed or scoffed or jeered at you. When a child concludes repeatedly that they are not enough, then their brain will shut down and there will be a self-fulfilling prophecy take effect that will continue to shut them down for the rest of their lives. Once you decide that you are not enough, you'll either underperform or you will overcompensate, and they can be just as annoying because those people are always trying too hard. They talk too much, they Skype too much, they're blowhards, they're egotistical, and they become quite narcissistic because their life is one long compensation for just not feeling adequate. And we know that trouble follows the insecure like night follows day. And if you're dating or searching for a kindred spirit and you're looking to get married, can I give you just one piece of advice in the time we've got? Don't give your loyalty in life to somebody who believes that they are not enough. Why? Because they're going to keep causing trouble. Why? Because every person becomes a mirror that must give them the right message. The right message that they're beautiful, they're popular, they're smart, they're intelligent, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on and on and on. And you're going to get punished by those people every time you fail to affirm them or validate them in the way that they so desperately need. And that's where we end up with borderline disorders, narcissism, or just a sulky person who doesn't resolve anything. It's tragic to watch, and not many people find the true culprit. And the true culprit turns out to be an inner child that concluded years ago that no matter what the demand, expectation, or requirement, they are not enough. And again, that's why I encourage people to come to faith, because in the love of God and in the love of his Savior Jesus, you are enough. You are not the ugly duck in the pond. You're actually a beautiful swan. If only you'd give yourself permission to believe it. Once you believe you're a swan, you start acting like a swan. But as long as you believe you're an ugly duckling, then your life will be ugly. You'll make ugly choices and you will repel people. And that's just a shame. So that's a couple of assumptions that I've pulled out of the box. There's a whole bunch more. I would say there's probably about a dozen that rule them all. It's like the ring that rules them all. Those assumptions can rule your life, and they're hardly ever challenged. And that's why counselors are needed to help you discover the assumption that's ruling your life and running you into the ground emotionally, sexually, psychologically, academically. One wrong assumption, Kylie, can run a person into the ground. And I don't want to see that. And I spend my career helping people out of the pits that those assumptions cause. But make no mistake, they've never come across this teaching before in their life. They could have a PhD and be completely unaware of the assumptions that are ruling them. And in fact, often the academically qualified are the most ignorant of the forces that are determining the way they think and how they think and what they believe. So, living wisdom is designed to help you rapidly and effectively become aware of those assumptions that are causing your beliefs to form, which in turn are causing your self-talk to prattle on, which in turn are forming the emotions you're so struggling with. So that's another long answer to a short question. I hope it all makes sense.
It does. And I think assumptions are probably, I don't know, I'm not a counselor, but I would say a great deal of one's work would be to find that king lie or that assumption that's rattling in your basement that's causing, the spider creating the web.
And all assumptions are subconscious until they are identified, conscientized, and challenged. Once you've checked and become aware of an assumption, it's no longer an assumption, we call it a belief.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I had one of those and I've dug that right out. And yeah,
Good to hear.
I'm so different because of
Good
it.
to know.
Yes, and everybody, dare I say, this book, Daily Insights, has a lot of insights into misbeliefs and assumptions that you will have. You'll be amazed. You need to
And
get.
so that we don't assume that you know where to get it, go to www.livingwisdom.co.nz and you can order it online.
Yes, and there's a link there in the description of today's viewing. So get yourself one of those books and get them into your mind. Circle the ones that mean something to you.
And we have got them now as photographed magazines. They have pictures to illustrate every insight, and you can order one of those. It's called the Living Wisdom magazine, Volume 1 and Volume 2.
They need to be in every household. And I go to it often. I was going to say daily, but there's been an odd day where I haven't. So I have to say often to challenge my own beliefs because I know the power of doing that and releasing you from it.
And we're not seeking to indoctrinate people, we are seeking to educate them and teach them all the things that their parents never taught them because they didn't know them.
Yes. So thank you, David, for another session on Life is for Living, guys.
My
See you
pleasure.
soon. Bye.